Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into something that I think we've all had to deal with at some point, especially those of us in the fast-paced tech world.
Oh, yeah.
It was those dreaded job interview setbacks.
Interview setbacks. Yep.
But what if I told you that we could actually turn these, quote-unquote failures
Yeah.
into valuable lessons, almost like secret level ups in a video game?
Okay.
That's exactly what we're going to be exploring today using this really cool article from the Algo Academy blog.
Okay.
It's called How to Learn from Failed Interviews, Turning Setbacks into Stepping Stones.
It's funny because a lot of people, I think when they have those tough interviews, they just want to forget that they ever happened.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're actually gold mines of information.
Right.
If you know where to look.
Okay, so how do we start digging for that gold?
Yeah.
The article mentions something called the growth mindset.
Yeah.
Is that where we begin?
Absolutely. It's all about seeing those setbacks, not as a judgment of your worth, but as a signal that there's room to grow. Imagine you're trying to solve a tricky coding problem, and your first attempt doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
A growth mindset would say, okay, that approach didn't work, but what can I learn from it? What other strategies can I try?
So instead of just thinking, ugh, I'm just not good enough,
Right.
it's more like, okay, this is an opportunity to level up my skills.
Exactly. And the article points out that this mindset helps you in a few powerful ways. So you're more likely to embrace challenges.
Go.
You're more likely to persist even when things get tough.
Okay.
You're more likely to really absorb feedback.
Right.
And you're even more likely to find inspiration in the success of others.
Okay, so let's say you've just walked out of an interview that, maybe didn't go so well. I know my instinct would be to just try to bury that memory deep, deep down.
Yeah.
What's the first move we should make?
I think it's tempting to want to just hit the mental delete button,
Right.
but resist that urge right after the interview, even while it's fresh.
Okay.
Grab a notebook or open a doc and just write down everything you remember.
Everything.
Yeah.
Even that moment when I completely blanked on how to reverse a linked list.
Especially that. It's not just about capturing the emotions. It's about those concrete details.
Right.
What were the questions they asked? What were your responses?
Okay.
How did you tackle those coding challenges?
Right.
What feedback, if any, did they give you? And even just your overall impressions.
Okay.
Think of it like gathering data for a scientific experiment.
Okay.
The experiment being your job search.
Interesting. It's like creating a game film that you can analyze later.
Yeah.
To see what worked, what didn't work, what needs improvement.
Exactly.
And once you've got all those details down, what's the next step?
So then it's time to put on your analyst hat
Okay.
and really dissect that performance.
Okay.
Ask yourself some tough but really essential questions.
Like what?
Like, which questions did I totally nail?
Okay.
Where did I stumble? Were there any technical concepts I completely missed?
Right.
How was my communication?
Right.
It's all about pinpointing your strengths and your weaknesses, objectively.
I can see how that could be really valuable, almost like having a coach review your performance.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be tempting to kind of focus on the negative, on those moments where you felt like you messed up?
It's natural to feel that way.
Yeah.
But remember those quote-unquote mess-ups?
Right.
They're often the most valuable learning opportunities.
Okay.
Because they highlight the areas where you need to focus your efforts.
Gotcha.
And this is particularly crucial when we talk about, the technical aspects of tech interviews.
Oh, yeah. Those coding challenges can be brutal.
Yes.
Especially in those FAing interviews.
Oh, yeah.
How do we go from feeling defeated by those challenges
Right.
to actually learning from them?
Yeah, the article breaks it down into 3 key steps.
Okay.
First, try to recreate the problem you faced, even if you don't remember every single detail.
Okay.
Platforms like Algo Academy can be really helpful for finding similar challenges to practice with.
So it's like going back to the gym and working on that exercise that totally wiped you out the first time.
Yes, that's a great analogy.
Okay.
But it goes beyond just repetition. The second step is exploring multiple solutions to that problem.
Gotcha.
Don't settle for just the first approach that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Even if it worked during the interview.
Right.
Research different methods.
Okay.
Analyze their efficiency.
Right.
Consider those tricky edge cases that might trip you up.
Okay.
And for our tech-savvy listeners out there, this is where understanding concepts like time and space complexity comes into play.
Time and space complexity. Okay, those are the terms that make my head spin a little bit. Can you break those down for someone who might not be fluent in the language of algorithms yet?
Absolutely. Think of it this way. Imagine you're searching for a specific book in a massive library. You could go through every single book one by one, but that would take forever, right?
Right, yeah.
That's kind of like a brute force approach in coding.
Yeah.
It works, but it's not very efficient.
Right. So what's the more efficient way to find that book?
You'd use the library's catalog system, right?
Yeah.
It lets you quickly pinpoint the book's location without having to search through everything.
Right.
That's similar to using a more efficient algorithm in coding.
Okay.
Time complexity basically measures how the runtime of your code increases as the input size grows. So a more efficient algorithm will take less time to run, even with a huge amount of data.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
Good.
It's like the difference between taking the scenic route and hopping on a high-speed train.
Exact.
So it's not just about getting the right answer.
Right.
It's about finding the most elegant and efficient solution.
I like that.
And what was that third step in turning those coding challenges into learning moments?
The third step is all about studying the optimal solutions. You can often find these on coding platforms with detailed explanations of WHY. They work so well.
Okay.
For example, the article uses the two-sum problem as an example and shows how a hash map can dramatically improve the efficiency of the solution.
Okay.
So instead of checking every possible pair of numbers, which can be very time-consuming,
Right.
a hash map lets you find the answer much faster.
So it's not just about memorizing code.
No.
It's about understanding the underlying logic and why certain solutions are more efficient than others.
Exactly. It's like the difference between following a recipe without understanding the chemistry involved
Right, yeah.
and actually knowing why certain ingredients react in certain ways.
Yes.
It makes you a much more adaptable and creative problem solver.
Okay, so we've kind of covered the technical side, but what about those all-important soft skills?
Yes.
Aren't those just as crucial in these tech interviews?
Absolutely. Technical skills will get you in the door, but those soft skills are what really make you stand out as a candidate.
Right.
And the good news is you can use those interview setbacks to improve in these areas too.
Oh, perfect. What are some key areas that we should be focusing on?
The article highlights 3 core areas where you can leverage those past experiences
Okay.
to improve.
Okay.
First up is communication.
Right.
Think back to your interview. Did you clearly articulate your thought process?
No.
Did you ask clarifying questions when you were stuck? How did you handle those moments of confusion?
Right.
These are all things to reflect on.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that the interviewers aren't mind readers, especially when you're kind of in the hot seat.
Right.
You need to walk them through your thinking, even if it seems obvious to you.
You hit the nail on the head. And that brings us to the second area, handling pressure.
Okay.
We all know that tech interviews can be nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah.
So how did that anxiety affect your performance? Were you able to stay calm and collected under pressure?
Okay.
Did you manage your time effectively when faced with those tough questions?
Yeah, I've had those moments where my mind just goes blank and all that prep work just flies out the window.
I know.
It's like stage fright, but for coding.
It happens to the best of us. And then the third area, which is especially important for FAN companies, is cultural fit.
Okay.
Did you convey your passion for technology and your willingness to learn?
Okay.
Were you able to give concrete examples of teamwork and collaboration?
Right.
Did your answers align with the company's values and mission?
So it's not just about being a coding superstar.
Right.
It's about showing that you'd be a valuable addition to the team.
Yes.
And that you vibe with the company's culture.
Precisely. And one of the best ways to assess how you're doing in these areas is to seek feedback.
Feedback. The good, the bad, and the sometimes non-existent.
Yes.
Even if the company doesn't offer feedback,
Right.
the article encourages us to try to get it right.
Feedback is like gold. Even if it's hard to mine sometimes,
Right.
the article even provides a handy email template that you can adapt to politely request feedback from your interviewer or the hiring manager.
Okay.
And it stresses the importance of expressing genuine interest in improvement,
Right.
not just complaining about the outcome.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's about showing them that you're serious about learning from the experience.
Yes.
Even if it wasn't the result that you hoped for.
Exactly.
But once you do get that feedback,
Yes.
how should you approach it?
With an open mind and a willingness to learn,
Okay.
look for specific areas that they mention. Compare their feedback to your own self-assessment. Pay attention to any discrepancies.
Okay.
Those gaps can reveal blind spots you might not have even been aware of.
It's almost like holding up a mirror to your self-perception and seeing if there are any distortions.
That's a good way to put it.
But feedback isn't just for feeling good or bad about ourselves, is it?
Right.
It's meant to lead to action.
You got it. And the article provides a really practical 4-step plan for turning that feedback into tangible improvement.
Give it to me.
First, list out those key areas where you need to level up your game.
Okay.
Then set specific, measurable goals for each area. Next, identify resources and strategies to help you achieve those goals.
Right.
And finally, set a timeline to hold yourself accountable.
Okay, that sounds super structured.
Yes.
Do they have any, real-world examples of how this plan works in practice?
They do. They use the example of someone who got feedback that their system design knowledge needed some work.
Okay.
So they created an action plan
Okay.
that involved reading a specific book on the topic, completing Algo Academy's system design course,
Right.
solving a certain number of system design problems each week,
Okay.
and even participating in online discussions
Right.
about system design.
So it's like turning that vague feedback of needs improvement
Yes.
into a targeted attack plan.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your growth.
Love it.
And speaking of growth, let's talk about how to expand your knowledge base.
Right, because once you've kind of pinpointed those weaknesses,
Mm-hmm.
the next step is transforming them into strengths.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
It all starts with identifying those knowledge gaps.
Okay.
Maybe you struggled with data structures and algorithms, or a
Awesome.
specific programming language,
Mm.
or even just some core computer science fundamentals.
Right.
The article actually provides a really helpful list
Oh, great.
of common areas where people tend to need more practice.
So it's like taking inventory of your mental toolbox and seeing what's missing or needs sharpening.
Precisely. And once you know what to work on, it's time for some structured learning.
Okay.
This isn't about randomly browsing Google or watching a few YouTube videos.
Right.
It's about creating a deliberate plan.
Okay, so how do we go about creating a solid learning plan? I tend to get overwhelmed by too many options.
I hear you. The article recommends choosing reputable resources,
Okay.
setting aside dedicated study time,
Right.
breaking down those complex topics into smaller, more manageable chunks,
Mm.
and using active learning techniques.
Active learning techniques. What are those?
Things like tackling practice problems,
Okay.
working on personal projects,
Mm-hmm.
and even teaching others what you're learning.
Okay.
It's about engaging with the material in a hands-on way,
Right.
not just passively absorbing it.
It makes sense. It's like the difference between reading about how to bake a cake
Yes.
and actually getting your hands dirty in the kitchen.
Exactly. And finally, you've got to put that knowledge into practice.
Okay.
It's one thing to learn the theory,
Right.
but you really solidify those skills by applying them in real-world situations.
So how do we go beyond theory and into real-world application?
The article mentions things like working on personal projects,
Okay.
contributing to open source projects, participating in coding challenges,
But-
and even writing blog posts or creating tutorials.
So it's about finding ways to use what you've learned to build something tangible
Yes.
or to help others learn.
Right. And not only does this reinforce your learning,
Mm-hmm.
but it also gives you something concrete to showcase to potential employers. It's like saying, look, I didn't just read about this stuff.
Right.
I actually used it to create something cool.
I like that. Yeah.
And speaking of practice, let's talk about how to really prepare for those interviews.
Yeah, because all the studying in the world won't help if you can't perform under pressure.
Right.
What's the best way to practice for the real deal?
Mock interviews are your secret weapon. And the article emphasizes making them as realistic as possible.
Okay.
Set time limits,
Right.
tackle those tough technical questions, and even practice those behavioral questions
Yeah.
that often come up.
Right.
It's like having a dress rehearsal before opening night.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But where do you find people to do mock interviews with?
There are tons of options. You can ask peers,
Okay.
mentors, or even use online platforms that connect you with other job seekers
Okay.
for mock interviews.
Cool.
The key is to find people who will give you honest and constructive feedback.
Right. And the article also suggests incorporating peer code reviews into your practice, right?
Absolutely. Sharing your solutions with others and getting feedback on your code can help you see things from different perspectives
Right.
and learn new approaches.
Oh.
It's like having a team of editors for your code,
Yeah.
helping you polish it to perfection.
I love that analogy.
Good.
And one more thing the article mentioned that I found really intriguing was recording your mock interviews.
Yes, with permission, of course.
Of course, yeah.
But watching yourself back can be incredibly revealing.
Yeah.
You can spot verbal tics,
Oh,
analyze how clearly you explain your thinking,
right.
and even evaluate how well you manage your time.
Okay.
It's like watching game film of yourself,
Yeah.
but for interviews.
Okay, that's great. It might be a little cringeworthy, but super helpful in the long run.
Yes.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground today.
Yeah.
From analyzing past interviews to practicing for future ones. But I think there's one crucial element we haven't touched on yet.
Okay.
The mental and emotional toll
Oh, yes.
of the job search, especially in the tech world.
You're absolutely right. The job search, especially in a competitive field like tech,
Yeah.
can be a real roller coaster of emotions.
Right.
It's filled with highs and lows,
Yes.
rejections and
Yeah.
self-doubt.
It's like running a marathon, but with coding challenges and behavioral questions thrown in for good measure.
Aha, that's a perfect analogy. And just like training for a marathon,
Yeah.
it's crucial to have strategies in place
Mhm.
to maintain your mental and emotional well-being
Okay.
throughout the process.
So how do we do that? How do we avoid burning out and stay motivated?
Right.
Even when facing rejection after rejection.
The first step is to recognize that rejection is a normal part of the process.
Okay.
Even the most skilled and experienced developers face rejection.
Yeah.
At some point,
Right.
it's not a reflection of your worth or your abilities.
Like dating, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to click with everyone you meet.
And just like in dating, it's important to not take rejection personally.
Right.
It's often a matter of fit,
Okay.
timing,
Mm-hmm.
or just plain luck.
Right.
Don't let those rejection emails crush your soul.
Easier said than done sometimes, but I get your point.
Right.
So how do we turn those rejections into something positive?
Use them as opportunities to learn and grow.
Okay.
Maybe the feedback they provide can help you identify areas for improvement,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's simply a sign that you're aiming for the wrong opportunities.
Gotcha.
It's like those wrong turns on a road trip.
Right.
They might lead you to some unexpected and amazing discoveries.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
And speaking of discoveries, another key strategy is to kind of embrace the learning journey.
Yes.
Don't just focus on landing the job. Focus on expanding your skills and your knowledge.
Exactly.
Take online courses, read technical books, contribute to open source projects.
Yes.
Turn that job search frustration into fuel for personal growth.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember to celebrate those small victories
Yeah.
along the way.
Yes.
Did you finally master that tricky algorithm?
Mm-hmm.
Did you solve that challenging coding problem?
Yeah.
Did you nail that mock interview?
Yes.
Take the time to, acknowledge your progress.
Yes.
Give yourself credit for the effort that you're putting in.
Absolutely.
It's like rewarding yourself with a delicious snack
Yes.
after a long run. Speaking of snacks,
Right.
let's not forget about self-care.
Yeah, self-care is so important.
Make sure you're getting enough sleep,
Yes.
eating healthy foods,
Yeah.
exercising regularly,
Yes.
and taking breaks to recharge.
Absolutely. It's like making sure your coding machine is properly fueled and maintained.
I like that. And
Yes.
don't be afraid to reach out for support
Yeah.
when you need it.
Yes.
Talk to friends, family, mentors. Join online communities where you can connect with other developers who are going through similar experiences.
Yes.
It's like having a pit crew.
Exactly.
Cheer you on
Yes.
and help you with those tire changes.
I love that.
Okay, we've covered so much ground in this first part of our deep dive, from analyzing past interviews to practicing for future ones,
Right.
and even addressing the mental and emotional aspects of the job search.
Yes.
But before we jump into the next section,
Okay.
let's take a quick break to let all this wisdom sink in.
All right, welcome back. I hope you've had a chance to kind of process all that information,
Yes.
and we're ready to move on.
Absolutely. I'm excited for more.
All right, so let's talk about data structures and algorithms.
yes.
The dynamic duo of coding interviews.
I've heard tales of these legendary challenges,
Yes.
striking fear into the hearts of even the most seasoned developers.
There's some truth to those tales.
Really?
Because data structures and algorithms are really the foundation of efficient programming.
Right.
They're how we organize and manipulate data.
Mm-hmm.
And having a strong grasp of them is essential for solving those complex problems that interviewers love to throw your way.
Okay, I'm sensing an analogy brewing here.
Uh-huh.
You know how much I love a good analogy?
I know.
Hit me with it.
Okay, imagine you're building like a magnificent Lego castle.
Okay.
You wouldn't just start like randomly snapping pieces together, would you?
No.
You'd need a plan.
Right.
You'd need a blueprint,
A structure to guide you.
a structure to guide you.
Right.
That's what data structures are like. They provide those blueprints for your code.
And the algorithms. Where do they fit into this Lego castle analogy?
So those are the step-by-step instructions
Okay.
for actually building that castle.
Yeah.
They tell you how to connect the pieces, where to place the towers, how to create the drawbridge. It's all about manipulating those Lego blocks
Right.
in specific ways to achieve your desired outcome.
So for someone prepping for a tech interview,
Yes.
where do we even begin with this vast universe of data structures and algorithms?
Right. It can be pretty daunting.
It can be a little overwhelming.
It's like walking into that massive Lego store for the first time, overwhelming, right?
Yes, exactly.
But the key is to start with the fundamentals.
Okay.
There are certain data structures that pop up all the time in interviews.
Like what?
Things like arrays,
Okay.
linked lists,
Mm-hmm.
stacks, queues, trees, and graphs.
Okay, so I need to know my arrays from my trees. Got it.
Yeah, mastering those is like having a solid foundation for
Right.
your Lego castle.
Makes sense.
And then in terms of the algorithms,
Mm-hmm.
there are definitely some all-star algorithms that you'll definitely want in your coding arsenal.
Okay, what are those?
Things like sorting algorithms.
Okay.
Think bubble sort, merge sort,
Right.
quick sort.
Yeah.
Searching algorithms,
Okay.
dynamic programming, recursion, and graph traversal algorithms.
Okay, so many algorithms.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah, and don't forget about understanding those concepts
Right.
like time and space complexity,
Yes.
which we touched on earlier. That whole like ON business,
Uh,
it's starting to make more sense now,
yeah.
but I still feel like I'm fumbling through like a foreign language sometimes.
I think that's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry. Practice makes perfect. And luckily, there are tons of resources out there to help you level up your algorithm game.
Okay. Likewise.
Platforms like Algocademy offer structured learning paths
Okay.
that break down these concepts
Right.
into manageable chunks with interactive exercises and challenges to help you really grasp the material.
It's like having a personal trainer
Yes.
for your coding brain.
I love that.
Yeah. What else makes a resource like Algocademy stand out when it comes to, learning these concepts?
You know, one thing I really appreciate about Algocademy is that they go beyond just teaching you the how. They delve into the why,
Right.
explaining the logic and the reasoning behind different algorithms.
Okay.
And that deeper understanding is what really makes you a more adaptable and creative problem solver.
It's the difference between blindly following a recipe
Yes.
and actually understanding the science behind why certain ingredients react in certain ways.
Exactly.
You become a much more intuitive cook, or in this case, coder.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I find so exciting about this whole process of turning interview setbacks
Right.
into learning opportunities.
Yes.
It's not just about getting that job offer.
Right.
It's about leveling up your skills
Mm-hmm.
and becoming a more confident and capable developer.
Okay, I'm feeling pumped to tackle those algorithms.
Yes.
But let's be real, tech interviews often go beyond just whiteboard coding problems, don't they?
You're right. While mastering data structures and algorithms is essential,
Mhm.
you'll also want to prepare for system design interviews,
Okay.
especially for senior level roles.
All right, so what are those?
Those interviews test your ability to think big picture,
Okay.
to design and architect complex systems
Right.
that can handle real-world challenges.
So less about like writing perfect code
Yes.
and more about thinking like an architect.
Exactly. Imagine you're tasked with designing a system like Twitter or Netflix.
Well,
You need to think about how to store massive amounts of data,
mhm.
how to handle millions of users concurrently,
Right.
how to make sure the system is reliable, secure, and can scale as it grows.
Okay, I'm already feeling a little intimidated.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
So where do we even begin with preparing for this kind of interview?
It's like tackling any large-scale project. You break it down
Okay.
into manageable chunks.
Gotcha.
A great starting point is familiarizing yourself with different architectural patterns,
Okay.
like client-server, peer-to-peer, and microservices.
Mhm.
Understand the trade-offs of each approach
Right.
and when it makes sense to use them.
Okay.
And then from there, dive into key concepts like load balancing, caching, databases, and distributed systems.
Okay, I'm taking notes furiously.
I can imagine.
But are there any resources out there that can help me, practice these system design skills?
Absolutely.
Because it seems a bit more abstract than just solving like an algorithm problem.
There are some fantastic books out there, like
Yeah.
Designing Data-Intensive Applications by Martin Klutman.
Okay.
It's a bit dense, but it's considered the Bible in the field.
Okay. I'll check it out.
And then platforms like AlgoAcademy
Mm-hmm.
offer dedicated system design courses
Okay.
that walk you through the process step by step with real-world examples and practice problems.
So it's like having an experienced architect kind of guiding you through the process.
Exactly.
Awesome. So we've covered data structures,
Yes.
algorithms, and system design.
Right.
Anything else we should be thinking about when, prepping for these tech interviews?
One area that I think often gets overlooked is the dreaded behavioral questions.
Ah,
The ones that delve into your past experiences,
right.
your problem-solving approach, your teamwork skills,
Right.
and how you handle those tricky situations that inevitably arise in the workplace.
Ah, yes, the infamous "tell me about a time you failed"
Right.
question.
Yeah.
That one always makes me sweat a little bit.
But here's the thing. Those behavioral questions aren't designed to trip you up.
Okay.
They're a way for interviewers to get a glimpse into who you are as a person,
Right.
how you think,
Mm-hmm.
and how you'd fit into their team.
Okay.
They want to see those Lego castles
Okay.
that you've built in the past,
Mm-hmm.
the challenges you faced, and the lessons you learn.
So how do we prep for these more like open-ended questions?
Right.
It's not like you can just memorize a code snippet.
You're right. It's more about reflection
Okay.
and storytelling.
Okay.
Take some time to think about your past experiences,
Mm-hmm.
both successes and failures,
Okay.
and identify stories
Right.
that showcase your skills and qualities.
Gotcha.
Think about times you've faced a challenge, solved a problem, worked effectively in a team, or learned from a mistake,
Okay.
and then practice articulating those stories in a clear and concise way, highlighting the key takeaways
Okay.
and what you learned from the experience.
So it's about turning those past experiences into, compelling narratives
Yes.
that demonstrate our skills and growth.
Exactly. And remember, honesty is key.
Okay.
Don't try to embellish or create stories that sound good but aren't genuine.
Right.
Interviewers can usually spot BS a mile away.
Absolutely.
Be authentic. Share your real experiences, even the ones where you might not have shined as brightly.
So even those Lego castles that might have crumbled a bit.
Yes. Those are often the stories that reveal the most
Okay.
about your character and resilience.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, and when answering those behavioral questions, try to connect your experiences back to the role in the company.
Okay.
Explain how your skills and qualities align with their values
Oh.
and what you can bring to the team.
Okay.
Show them that you've done your homework and you're not just applying to every job under the sun.
It's like customizing your Lego castle designed to fit the specific needs of the client.
That's a great way to put it.
You're showing them that you understand their vision and you're the right architect for the job.
Exactly. And don't forget to ask thoughtful questions of your own.
Yes.
It shows that you're curious, engaged, and thinking critically.
Okay.
It's a two-way street after all.
Right. It's a chance for you to assess whether this company is the right fit for you.
Exactly.
It's not just them evaluating us, it's us evaluating them.
It is.
It's like a, mutual, kind of seeing if the pieces fit together.
Yes.
Speaking of fitting together,
Yeah.
what are some common pitfalls that people fall into when answering these behavioral questions?
One common mistake I see is rambling on and on without a clear point.
Okay.
Remember, interviewers are busy people,
Right.
so respect their time by being concise
Okay.
and getting to the heart of the story.
Okay, so don't bore them with all the details.
Right. Another pitfall is focusing too much on the problem,
Okay.
not enough on the solution and the lessons learned. They want to see how you approach challenges,
Right.
not just that you face them.
It's about showcasing our, problem-solving skills.
Yes.
And our ability to learn and grow from those experiences.
Exactly. And one final tip, practice, practice, practice.
Okay.
The more you rehearse those stories,
Yeah.
the more comfortable and confident you'll be when those behavioral questions come your way.
Right. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground today, from mastering data structures and algorithms
We have.
to acing those system design interviews.
Yes.
And even tackling those tricky behavioral questions.
It's a lot.
But I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the mental and emotional toll of the job search.
Yes.
It's so easy to get caught up in the technical prep
Right.
and kind of forget to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. It's so important.
in the process.
You're so right. The job search can feel like a marathon.
Yeah.
And just like with any demanding endeavor, it's crucial to pay attention to our mental and emotional well-being.
Okay.
Otherwise, we risk burnout and discouragement.
Right. So what are some strategies we can use to kind of stay grounded and maintain our sanity amidst the chaos of the job search?
One of the most powerful tools in our arsenal is reframing.
Reframing.
It's about consciously shifting our perspective from seeing setbacks as failures
Okay.
to viewing them as valuable learning experiences.
Gotcha.
So instead of dwelling on what went wrong,
Right.
we ask ourselves,
Yeah.
what did I learn from this interview?
Oh, okay.
What skills do I need to strengthen?
Yeah.
What can I do differently next time?
So it's about turning those I messed up moments
Yes.
into, aha, now I know what to work on moments.
Exactly. It's about embracing those imperfections as part of the learning process.
Right. And another, key aspect of maintaining our mental well-being is self-compassion.
Yes, self-compassion is so important.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we'd offer a friend
Yes.
going through a similar experience.
Absolutely.
Because we're often our own harshest critics.
Yes, we are.
We'd never berate a friend for messing up in an interview, so why do we do it to ourselves?
It's a common trap, but it's so counterproductive. So instead of beating ourselves up over a mistake or a rejection, we can acknowledge that it's okay to feel disappointed,
Yeah.
but remind ourselves that we're still worthy and capable.
Right.
We haven't lost our Lego building skills overnight just because one castle didn't quite meet expectations.
It's like giving ourselves a pep talk
Yes.
instead of a punishment.
Exactly.
We're allowed to have those moments of frustration,
Yes.
but then we dust ourselves off
Yeah.
and get back to building.
And remember, the job search is a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
It takes time, effort, and resilience. So be patient with yourself, celebrate the small victories, and don't give up on your Lego building dreams.
I love that analogy.
Good.
Even if you encounter a few bumps along the way.
Yeah, those bumps are inevitable.
Right. Okay. I'm feeling re-energized and ready to tackle whatever challenges come my way.
That's the spirit.
But before we dive into the next section, which I'm really excited about,
Okay.
I think we should give our listeners a moment to process all of this amazing advice
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
and maybe grab a metaphorical snack.
Sounds like a plan. We'll be back shortly to explore how we can turn all of this learning into actionable steps
Okay.
for acing those future interviews.
Okay, we're back, and I'm ready to put all this amazing advice into action.
Me too. I think we've laid a really strong foundation.
We've talked about analyzing those past interviews, honing those technical and those soft skills, and even like taking care of our mental well-being during the job search.
Yeah, it's all connected, right?
It is. It is. So now it's time to tie it all together
I like it.
and prepare ourselves to absolutely crush those future interviews.
Okay, so where do we start? What's that first step?
Yeah. What's the first step in transforming ourselves from interview stumblers to interview conquerors?
It all starts with targeted research.
Okay, research, yes.
Think of it like scouting out the competition before a big game.
Okay, I like it.
You need to understand the company that you're interviewing with,
Yeah.
their products, their tech stack, their culture, their values.
And don't forget those Glassdoor reviews, right?
Oh, yes. Those can be super helpful.
They can give you some insider insights into that interview process.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of LinkedIn. Connect with people who work at the company,
Okay.
especially those in roles that you might be interested in. You might be surprised how willing people are to share their experiences and even offer advice.
It's like having a secret agent on the inside feeding you intel.
I love that analogy.
Right.
And don't forget to prepare some thoughtful questions for them, too. It shows that you're genuinely interested and that you've done your homework.
It's like bringing a gift to a dinner party.
Exactly. It makes a good impression.
Okay, so research is key. Got it. But what about tailoring our prep to those areas where we've, stumbled in the past?
Yeah, that's where customized prep comes in. Each interview is a learning opportunity, and those past experiences can guide your future preparation. So, think about it. Did you struggle with explaining a particular technical concept?
Yeah, been there.
Okay, so practice breaking it down into simple terms.
Okay.
Maybe use an analogy, maybe use a real-world example.
It's like figuring out the best way to explain a complicated Lego construction to someone who's never seen one before.
Exactly.
Right.
You need to find a way to make it relatable and understandable.
Exactly.
And think back to those behavioral questions, too. Were there any that kind of caught you off guard?
Oh, yeah.
Or that you felt like you could have answered better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So take some time to reflect on those situations, practice your responses, and come up with compelling stories that showcase your skills and experience.
Okay, it's like refining those Lego castle blueprints, making sure they're clear, concise, and showcase your best work.
Precisely. And one more thing. Don't underestimate the power of a consistent problem-solving approach.
Okay.
So when you're faced with that technical challenge, take a deep breath. Break the problem down into smaller steps and talk the interviewer through your thought process. Even if you don't arrive at the perfect solution, showcasing a clear and logical approach can make a big difference.
It's like showing them your Lego building strategy.
I love that.
Right. You're showing them your strategy. You're showing them that you can think critically,
Yes,
that you can problem solve effectively, and that you can communicate your ideas clearly.
exactly.
Awesome. So we've covered so much today. I feel like we've packed like a whole week's worth of interview prep into like an hour. But before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to mindset. It seems like having that right mindset is just so crucial for navigating this often turbulent, job search journey.
You're absolutely right. It's not just about those technical skills and preparation. It's about approaching the entire process with a positive and resilient mindset. Because let's be real, the tech job search can be brutal.
It can be.
It's easy to get discouraged, to start doubting yourself, to feel like you're not good enough, especially when those rejection emails start piling up.
It's like building a Lego castle and having it topple over right before a big competition.
Right. It can be really disheartening. But that's where mindset comes in. It's about choosing to see those setbacks, not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. It's about reminding yourself that you're capable, worthy, and on the right track, even if the journey isn't always smooth.
So how do we cultivate that kind of like unwavering positivity, especially when we're facing, rejection after rejection?
One powerful technique is reframing. So it's about consciously shifting your perspective from seeing those setbacks as the end of the world to seeing them as valuable lessons.
Okay, I like that.
Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, ask yourself, what did I learn from this experience? What can I do differently next time? How can I use this to become an even stronger candidate?
It's like turning those I messed up voices into, okay, what can I learn from this moment?
Exactly. It's about embracing those imperfections as stepping stones on the path to success. And another key aspect of cultivating a resilient mindset is self-compassion.
Self-compassion, okay.
Yeah, it's about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend going through a similar challenge.
Because, we tend to be much harder on ourselves than we are on others. We'd never tell a friend they were a failure just because they had a tough interview.
Exactly. So why do we do that to ourselves?
Not exactly.
It's a common trap, but it's so important to break free from that negative self-talk. Instead of beating yourself up, acknowledge your feelings of disappointment, but remind yourself that you're still worthy, you're capable, and you're deserving of success.
It's like giving yourself a pep talk instead of a punishment.
Exactly. And remember, the job search is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a process, and it takes time, effort, and resilience to reach the finish line. So be patient with yourself, celebrate those small victories, and most importantly, don't give up on your dreams.
I love that, and I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah, I think so too.
We've covered so much in this deep dive into turning interview setbacks into stepping stones.
I hope it's been helpful for everyone listening.
I think it has, and remember, Algo Academy is an incredible resource for anyone looking for that structured learning and practice in all the areas we talked about today.
Absolutely. If you're feeling stuck or need some extra support, definitely check them out.
So to wrap things up, we want to leave you with one final thought. How can you apply just one of the strategies we discussed today to your own job search journey?
What small change can you make today that will help you take that next step?
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.